Bellator is running their first show in a month and a half this weekend. They have not ran a show since July 12th. Before that, they didn't run one since June 22nd. They were a little bit more regular before that, but they only ran 2 shows in June, 2 shows in May, 1 show in April, 2 shows in March, a couple shows, and then it was like 4 a month before that. Do you like this approach for Bellator? I do. I think absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I have been very outspoken, Joe, about how they have a very good roster, and it shouldn't be spread so thin that you have, like, Sam Cecilia main eventing a show. That shouldn't happen. That doesn't need to happen. All due respect to him. This show, on the prelims, has Seba Homasi, Nick Newell, Timothy Johnson. It has Conry Gracie, who you probably never heard of, but hey, they're banking on the Gracie name, and that's it. Austin Vanderford, who is Mr. Paige Van Zant. On the prelims, that looks about as good as a lot of their main cards have from name value in the past. What do you think of this new approach?
I don't know what to think of it, to be honest with you. I think I 100% agree with you that they have talent on their roster. And I think under the right circumstances, and I hate to say this, the worst thing in MMA nowadays is the fact that these promoters must put forth a bunch of content. They have to do it for their broadcasting rights, and in doing so, take away from the quality of the product. What's happening is the product will get watered down because you have to fill the cards with bodies. And at times, there are bodies that should not be competing for Bellator and the UFC, whereas if you just left the top of the top for each promotion, you would see more high-quality fights, Sean. So, there are, like you said, look at the names. I mean, even if you look at Bellator's next card, but if you look at the names here on the prelims, you could have some damn good cards with these guys on main cards, right? So, listen, Scott Coker has to do what Scott Coker has to do. He signed to do it. He's got to put forth the content. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I don't like all these broadcasting deals where you have to give so much content to the providers as opposed to the actual quality of the product can be far more improved if they would just sit down and say, we don't have to do weekly shows. We can do bi-weekly shows and pay-per-views. I know Bellator won't do another pay-per-view for a while, but that's my theory.
They go right back to 3 shows next month, of course. Let's talk about some of the fighters on this show. Tyrell Fortune, 6-0, one of their projects that has really worked out. He's on the card against Rudy Shafarov, who nobody has ever heard of, but is also 6-0. Yaroslav Amosov, who, woo boy, is he good. He is real good, 21-0, taking on David Rickles. That's a hell of a test for him. Taylor Turner, 2-4 against Alejandra Lara, 7-3. Why? Well, first off, why is anybody that's 2-4 getting booked in the promotion, Joe?
Does she take this on a? Well, that's another story.
I don't care. I don't care. There's somebody who's better than 2-4.
Oh yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts, especially a flyweight.
2-4 on a Bellator show. I'm gonna double check here, make sure it's the main card. Yeah, main card. Build on Wikipedia as 3rd from the top. Ugh.
There's something we don't know?
That's stupid. Well, either way, at least we have Tyrell Fortune and Yaroslav Amosov fighting. I think they're both going to win. But David Rickles is not an easy out for Amosov. I mean, he's a guy who's won 4 of his last 5. He had lost to Melvin Gillard, but Gillard was on some shit. Rickles has never lost 2 in a row. He has been a Bellator mainstay since 2011. This is, I think, the ultimate test for Amosov, and if he wins this, I'm ready to start talking about him near the top of the division and maybe a title fight.
Not yet. Not at 170. He's got a bit of work to do. Take out Rickles. Yep, take out Rickles. But man, this is a pretty stacked division at 170. Right? Give him time.
I guess, but I mean, this would be him beating Gerald Harris, Eric Silva, and David Rickles back to back to back in Bellator.
Valid. Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't have a finish yet in Bellator, and that's the big thing. 'Cause he was finishing everybody like over in the Ukraine or wherever the hell he fought. I think Ukraine. But if he starts to get finishes, if he can finish David Rickles, that would tell me a lot. Also, on the prelims, I mentioned Nick Newell, great person to have on the prelims. Timothy Johnson, good name to have on the prelims. Seba Homasi, whatever. Austin Vanderford, that's a good name. I mean, Seba Homasi, UFC vet. Ricky Bandeas, that's a pretty good name. And then you got Conry Gracie, who cares? He's there for the name. This is a decent little prelim show, Joe.
Yeah, I like it. Still laughing at the fact that Timothy Johnson got cut from the UFC after a win, but
yeah,
and he goes and fights Congo and gets knocked out in 68 seconds. They're good names on there. There are good names on there, and they're on the prelims. And I don't know if anyone in Canada can see them. Well, we got to get DAZN, that's for sure. But yeah, other than that, I Nick Newell, like you mentioned, Homasi operates in a different frequency. I think I know where you're going with this. So, but yeah, it'd be fun.
Vitaly Minikov taking on Javi Ayala. Minikov, looking to march back towards that heavyweight title. Do you think he can do it? Do you think he beats Javi Ayala? Ayala's one of those guys he's going to chuck and duck. You know what you're getting out of Javi Ayala. Maybe not the most exciting fighter in the world, but if you're Minikov, you got to come back from that Czech Congo loss. And that's a tough one, man. He came back after all that time off. It was over a year off after not fighting in Bellator for years. And everybody thought, okay, he goes right back to the top of the division. Well, not so much, because Czech Congo is having the best run of his MMA career right now. And got stopped. But I don't think this one will be tough for Minikov to win. I think Bellator was smart in doing this and just selling this on, hey, Minikov is fighting. Let's see how he does.
I think Minikov wins. I mean, the fact that he took 75 years off and then fights Czech Congo and takes him to a 5-round decision, takes him to a decision. It was only a 3-rounder, that fight. Says a lot. And Ayala, I mean, you defeat Frank Mir, and Frank Mir's been around the block. I remember Frank Mir, he can't take the punches that he used to in his youth, right? So it's no different than guys that have been competing for a long time. Physically, they can take it. But once that jaw gets hit and it gets shut down, it's over. So Ayala ran with that and emerged victorious. But he did go the distance with Roy Nelson. But we can always say Roy Nelson doesn't really do much with the capability that he does have. And then Czech Congo, you saw what Czech Congo did to Ayala. So I'm going to go with Minikov in this fight.
Speaking of Ayala, he is the only person to beat Sergey Kharitonov in his last, I think, 13 fights. Mm-hmm. However, he does have 2 no contests. One of those being to Matt Mitrione, who was able to stop Kharitonov 1 second earlier than Ayala, although the result was much different, a kick to the nutsack. They're running this one back 6 months later. I'm going Kharitonov here. I mean, the guy has competed at a high level for so long, hasn't been getting beaten. And I mean, Kharitonov had a nice run where he beat Fedor, although that was who connects with who first, a little bit harder. I think Kharitonov is going to take this. I think he's more technical. I think he's more well-rounded. I think that he has competed, oddly enough, at a higher level for a longer time than Matt Mitrione. I mean, around the time that Matt Mitrione started in the UFC, about 2010 to 2011, Sergey Kharitonov was fighting the Josh Barnetts of the world. Yeah. And Overeem and Verdum. I mean, my God, he was fighting Overeem and Verdum 3 years before Matt Mitrione probably knew what MMA was. How do you think this one goes? I mean, you look at Kharitonov, and man, he is really an unsung hero of the heavyweight division. He's beaten Ninja Hua, Semi Schilt, Pedro Hizzo, Fabricio Verdum, Overeem, Arlovsky. My God. What do you think?
You believe he's younger than Mitrione?
Isn't that crazy?
He's younger than Mitrione, and it's funny we're
2
talking
years
about,
younger.
Yeah, it's funny we're talking about a bout where nut shots were the issue in the first one, or a nut shot. Just funny that The bout that I was mentioning to you in the Rising card that was third from the top, Victor Henry against Trent Girdham. Ben Wynn and I were having so much fun calling that fight, and it was not funny, but we were just having fun at the nut shots because I think it was Trent Girdham went up 2-0 when it comes to nut shots, and then Victor Henry tied it, made it 2-2.
My God,
4 nut shots landed in one fight, despite the high quality MMA. It's just sometimes southpaw or just depending on the position. But talking about this Bellator main event in the heavyweight division, I agree with your assessment. Kharitonov, I think, is going to emerge victorious. I think he's just got that different type of. I'm not going to compliment his footwork, but I think it's different than Mitrione's to the point where Matt Mitrione may get caught in a very bad position with Kharitonov landing that one punch that just drops everything. Now, Mitrione does have power. Let's not kid ourselves. If he decides to turn things on and Kharitonov is caught flat-footed, could get ugly, Sean. Could get real ugly for Kharitonov. I just look at this fight here, basically paper versus paper. I'm going with Sergey.
I am too. I think this is an okay main event for Bellator, and I guess I'm hypercritical over Bellator because I know they can do so much more. Always, I know that they can do so much better. They have so many champions that fight like they have them fight once a year, and maybe that bothers me a little bit. And I mean, God, they got enough Pitbull brothers to headline more than one show a month, for the love of God. But I will be watching this show. We will cover this show next Tuesday on the Fightful MMA podcast. But as we wrap up, John Jones will have a hearing for his battery trial. That's coming up next month. But no UFC this weekend. I'm happy. I'm very excited. I won't be able to do a post show for the show in a couple weeks because I'll be in Chicago for an AEW show. But Joe, what do you have going on this week? You've had a lot of stuff over the last week.
A lot of stuff going on. I'm in catch-up mode for all things in my life. So I'm dealing with, I would say, 3 to 4. I'm not going to put them at that emergency scale, Sean,
Yeah.
but they're like just you got to get them done ASAP, Joe. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm actually glad there's no UFC event this weekend, only because I'm apparently going away with the family for the first time in a very long time. It may not be an overnighter. My son's trying to fight me. He wants an overnighter. He wants to stay in a hotel like Daddy does, and blah blah. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week leading up to everything. It sucks that as crazy as it sounds, I am interested in this Andrade Zhang fight just to see if Zhang can pull off the upset. And it's got a pretty good co-main event. But in a way, it's good because before the show, before we came on the air, I think there was 4 fights that got dropped from this show. So the UFC is in scrambling mode at the moment to figure out who they're going to fill up. So next week we'll be able to discuss it on the podcast here. So, but other than that, Sean, for myself, just same old work, and obviously I'm so glad to be home to coach the boys to practice tonight and game on Thursday. So.
Guys, I want to thank you all so much. Leave a thumbs up. Sorry that we were not live today. Streaming issue. It was human error, not software error. I set the broadcast canvas or something too big. But we'll be right back live next week, as we will be every single week. Till next time, guys, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. We're out.